This episode is brought to you by 180 Markets, where it is our goal to bring every individual, fund manager, family office, or any qualified investor access to Australian Stock Exchange capital raises. If you are ever interested in how to access ASX capital raises in a super simple way, 180 Markets is for you. The sign-up process is easy. You just upload your ID, proof of your investor status, and your current brokerage account information. The settlement of shares goes right into your existing account, and you can access our very next capital raise. If you're interested in free, easy access to thousands of ASX capital raises, including placements, IPOs, reverse takeovers, and more, check out 180markets.com.au. Hello, friends. Welcome. Another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Investors, there are two key P's for any type of successful commodity investment. You need the right people and you need the right project. And that's why we are so excited today, because we have both of these. We have an unbelievably experienced management team that has a history of success on one hand. And then on the other hand, the right project, Tamboran Resources. That's right, it's a huge natural gas play up in the Northern Territory with commercialization arrangements already taking place. And here to talk all about it is Managing Director and one of these experienced people I talked about, Joel Riddle. Joel, with that introduction, welcome to 18 Minutes with 180 Markets.
Thanks, Greg. Very, very excited to be with you.
Thanks. Joel, as I hit on, can you just tell people a little bit about your background, because people should know who you are?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. My background originally is a drilling engineer for Exxon. I was with Exxon for about 6 years in the US, where I drilled both onshore and offshore wells in the Gulf of Mexico and onshore Texas. After MBA, I spent time out in Indonesia with Unocal, where I worked on gas commercialization on one of the largest projects in Asia Pacific, ultimately attracted the likes of Chevron once Unocal and Chevron merged in 2004. And then most recently, before joining Tamboran, I spent 8 years on an early stage private equity backed company out of the US called Cobalt. Cobalt was originally private equity funded by Goldman Sachs, First Reserve, and Riverstone, some of the most high profile private equity in the world. And the scope of Cobalt was going to create a large prospective business in the deepwater Gulf of Mexico and deepwater Angola. And that's exactly what we did. We built a fourth largest Gulf of Mexico position, picked up 3 big PSCs offshore Angola, and ultimately completed a $1 billion IPO in 2009. Company traded up to over $8 billion market cap during my time there. And very excited and fortunate to have such a successful, being a part of such a successful venture early on in my career. Joined Tamboran in 2013. Spent the first couple of years refocusing the company around the Beetaloo asset, and cleaning up both strategy, our people, and are getting to a place today where we're focused in the highest quality part of the Beetaloo Basin, called the core Beetaloo, where we have 2 of our assets in EP 161 and EP 136, over 31 trillion cubic feet of recoverable gas that we hold in the core Beetaloo. And very fortunate to have this opportunity to be in position, particularly with our asset EP 136, to drive first development that we're targeting as early as 2025. And we believe this is all the elements that allowed us to successfully complete a recent IPO where we raised over 61 million just a month ago.
Absolutely. And, Joel, I want to talk about, your shareholders and the management team a little bit more, maybe in a couple of minutes, but can you just go into what is it at your project in EP 136 that has attracted to you? Because you have seen world-class projects all over the world, so to speak. What brought you here?
Look, there's very few places when you pan out and look around the world where you can find quality rock and quality rock of scale. You're very right. I've looked, around the world during my 26 years in the oil and gas business. Spent time again in my previous life working, in the deep water Gulf. That was one of the last frontiers, really, when you look at that combination of scale and quality of resource. So when you pan the globe now we're 10 years later from my time at Cobalt, outside of, sort of Middle East, Russia, and when we focus on OECD type countries, there's not many opportunities, if any, that have that combination of scale and quality. And that's really what, originally brought me to get focused with Tamboran and its focus in the Beetaloo, because when I look at the rock, there's 30 wells that have been drilled in the basin today. So there's quite a bit of information around the quality of the rock. It looks very, very similar to the Marcellus Shale, which is the most prolific shale basin in the whole world. And not only is it, the rocks look similar, there's actually stacked pay of shale in the Beetaloo, in the deepest section where we're focused in the core. And so lots of gas there, high quality gas. And so when we start to drill this gas, because of its similarities to the Marcellus, this will ultimately translate, that I believe, into high productivity wells and therefore, high economic value wells. And that's what gets me super excited, is this potential, particularly in the area where we're focused in the core Beetaloo, to, leverage the quality of the rock that help drive the first production that we're targeting as early as 2025.
Fantastic. And, on that point, 2025 obviously is the goal, is the end goal, but what should we be looking for out of Tamboran, would you say, over the next 12 months? Like what are the milestones that investors should be looking at?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things that you see in the activity in the Beetaloo today is there's quite a bit of activity focused between Santos, Origin, Tamboran, and another publicly traded company called Empire. So the first point I want to make is lots of activity. Then you have to ask yourself, where is that activity occurring? And when you look at 4 big wells that are being drilled between Santos, Origin, and Tamboran over the next 12 months, they're all focused in this area called the core Beetaloo. There's 2 wells being drilled today in which Tamboran is participating in, called Tamboran 2H and 3H. They are being drilled by Santos, and we're a 25% equity partner in these wells. The first well that we're drilling, Tamboran 2H, was spud in May, and we will have flow test results on both Tamboran 2H and 3H in the next 2 months. So we have that big catalyst coming, for the company sometime in late September, early October. So it's a huge catalyst for us, but most importantly, the relationship between EP161, where Tamboran owns 25%, and our operated block EP136, where we own 100%, is very much a strong relationship in the geology that we're targeting in the 2 wells versus the acreage that we own 100%. So we have this opportunity to invest in 25% dollars to help uplift our 100% acreage that's less than 25 kilometers away. The other point I want to make is Origin Energy, as I mentioned, is also drilling right on the west edge of our EP136 block as well over the next 6 months. And so by the end of the year, we'll have 2 wells with Santos being drilled that we'll have the results on, and then this Origin well. So on the east side of our 136 block, we have Tamboran 2H and 3H, and on the west side, we have Origin drilling. And so this all sets up to a super exciting well that we plan to drill in early 2022 called Maverick 1 on EP136, where we're going to take the learnings from each of these 3 wells that are being drilled in the core and deploy those learnings into Maverick 1. So big picture for an investor, there's 4 big wells being drilled. These are transformative type wells, and Tamboran will participate in 3 out of the 4 big wells. So, when you think about opportunities to play big, we offer that opportunity for an investor. to participate in, 3 out of the 4 big wells being drilled in the Beetaloo over the next 12 months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's super exciting, as you said. I mean, mega catalysts. Now, also, Joel, just taking a little bit of a turn and drawing on your business skills. As you know, it's one thing to have a big resource, but it's quite another thing to actually commercialize it and make it into dollars and cents. But in your case, obviously, and I'm sure you've thought about this, a lot. You already have a commercialization agreement in place. Can you just discuss with that a little bit, because it's critically important for investors to understand this point?
Yeah, look, my background in the U.S., this is something that is a key learning, particularly in U.S. shale basins, is that companies have been forced to, not wait until you get results to start to think about how you're going to commercialize it. You have to actually understand exactly your pathway to commerciality on day one. And so that's exactly what we've done here, and setting the frame, so to speak, for our company. And so we've been in discussions with Gemina, and for all the investors not aware of Gemina, they're the second largest midstream company in all of Australia. They're the one company that has connected the Northern Territory to the East Coast gas market via a pipeline that they constructed in 2018, where they invested over $800 million on this pipeline. And so last year we formed a joint venture with Gemina that will give us right of first refusal into this northern gas pipeline that Gemina operates. And so having that commercial agreement will allow the company, through its drilling activity on EP 136, where we have 100% and we're operated, to really drive and have control of our destiny around being the first to commercialize out of the Beetaloo through this pipeline. We think this is a significant competitive advantage, and one that we're going to be laser focused on every day, so that when we get the initial results from these 3 big wells that we'll be drilling over the next 12 months, we're going to be pivoting really quickly to start moving forward to that 100 million cubic feet a day that we plan to produce by 2025. And not only is that going to be a significant opportunity for Tamboran and for the basin as a whole, it really will kickstart the full field development that we see coming shortly after getting the pilot development on, that will be focused immediately after that first production in 2025, where, I believe that the acreage on EP 161 and EP 136, together with our partner Santos, could result in a BCF a day type development, ultimately, and sourcing gas to the north, where there's 2 LNG plants out of Darwin, or to the East Coast, where there's 3 LNG plants, and a domestic market that's projected to be very short gas in that time period.
Yeah, amazing. To draw a parallel with you, Joel, it kind of reminds me of biotech investing in a way, where it's one thing to develop the drug, but another thing, how do you get it out there, so to speak? And the same thing, as you've alluded to already. Joel, I spoke earlier about your background, and also part of the experienced team is the shareholders that you have been able to attract, specifically Baupost. Can you just talk a little bit about who these people are, because it really is a massive box tick for other investors?
Yeah, sure. One of the things we've been focused on is not just attracting capital, but really attracting the right kind of capital. Capital that is value focused, long-term focused, and I think that's a key differentiating element to our company. Is we've been building the shareholder base for quite some time, and to your point, one of the highest quality investors that we've been able to attract is a fund out of Boston, assets under management of around 30 billion, led by one of the most prolific investors in the world, named Seth Klarman. And they're our second largest shareholder. And this is a company as well that is, like Baupost and others on our shareholder base, has participated in the U.S. shale revolution over the last 10 years. And so they understand what it means to invest in shale, and they themselves, see a lot of the key elements of what made the Marcellus, for instance, very special. They see that same sort of signature in the Beetaloo Basin, and that's one of the reasons why I believe they've chosen to invest in our company. Not to mention, there's a range of other funds that have that sit beside Baupost that have come from the U.S. One is Lion Point Capital Fund out of New York. And then there's a range of high quality institutions that we've been able to attract as part of the IPO, institutions here in Australia, of course, and also a range of institutions out of Asia and Europe. So this is a worldwide shareholder base. These are high quality institutional investors, really investors that do their homework, understand shale. And I think that really, to your point, gives, a lot of credibility to the people, the asset, and our business plan. This business plan, by the way, has happened before. And one of the things that you mentioned up front is around the people involved. And I'd like to mention, our chairman, Dick Stoneburner, who these investors knew very well from his time at Petrohawk. And so for all the investors out there that are not familiar with Petrohawk.
Please explain.
Yeah, Petrohawk was probably one of the most successful shale stories over the last 10 years out of the US. They were focused early in the Eagle Ford Shale out of Texas. And Petrohawk was focused not just in the Eagle Ford, but in the core Eagle Ford. And Dick Stoneburner was the founder of Petrohawk Energy. He focused in the core, drilled a number of wells up front, got a pilot on in the first 24 months of his business plan, ended up commercializing over 30 TCF in the Eagle Ford over a 4-year period, and ultimately sold to BHP in 2011 for 12.1 billion US.
Not bad.
When you look at what Dick accomplished at Petrohawk, it's essentially a lay down blueprint of the business plan that we're going to be running here at Tamboran. Now, different challenges. Obviously, Texas is not the same as the Northern Territory from an infrastructure perspective and from a services of rigs and completion equipment perspective. But the point I want to make is, Dick and his team at Petrohawk, they have done this before. And, having Dick as chairman, Tamboran is very fortunate to have attracted someone of Dick's quality to the, top leadership position in the company. And I think, again, that will give what I believe, a lot of credibility to, kind of our business plan, having someone of Dick's quality involved.
Yeah, absolutely, Joel. And also, I just want to add for investors that our opportunity as investors is to buy a market on the same terms as these investors. Tamboran is a recent IPO, but these shareholders, they don't have any extra options, better terms. Everybody is pari passu and shoulder to shoulder. Joel, we try to keep these interviews short. Do you have any closing remarks for the audience, please?
Yeah, look, I think what I'd like to say in closing is that I think, when you look around the E&P space, particularly here in Australia, there's very few opportunities that investors can touch that have the kind of growth profile as Tamboran. When you think about, I mentioned the analog with Petrohawk in the US, I think the analog here, different industry, but sort of slimmer type growth profile would be, Fortescue back in the early 2000s, very, faint, future billionaire Twiggy Forrest, was in early. He focused in the best part of the Pilbara, focused on infrastructure early, and ultimately just transformed the iron ore business. The linkage to Asia Pacific, just like, gas is linking from Australia to Asia Pacific, a lot of similarities. And then, the investors that got in early with Fortescue, ended up doing very, very well. I don't think there's a lot of Fortescue opportunities in the market today other than what we're doing at Tamboran. We are focused early in the best part of the basin. We've attracted the highest quality team and people. And, we have this key partnership with Gemini, again, focused early in the infrastructure element, so that when, things start to take off after these first big 4 whales over the next 12 months, this is a great opportunity for an investor to place some early bets and, really have a tight Fortescue type growth profile as we move forward over the next, 3 to 4 years.
Thanks, Joel, and absolutely stay in touch because we look forward to all these announcements in 2025.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Greg.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching another presentation by 180 Markets. Don't forget, if you want access to thousands of ASX capital raises, head on over to 180markets.com.au, sign up, and get on board for our very next capital raise. Thanks for watching.